without stating the obvious, we have a pandemic in the moment around us in the world. But what it's actually showing is it's showing the actual 3 stages of how people act when they're actually faced with a crisis, and not just a global pandemic, but how they actually face adversity and challenges in their life. So let's get stuck in right now about how you can better be prepared in your business, with your team, and with your clients as well for when crisis hits. Okay, so yes, we have a global pandemic at the moment with the COVID-19 situation. Just here in one of my offices, and I'm here with Scott at the moment. He's just over here.
Hey guys.
And we're basically just having a bit of a chat, and I thought it's a really great opportunity for us to talk to people right now about how to best work with the clients that they're actually working with at the moment in regards to crisis management. Because ultimately, everyone, when they're faced with with a crisis or a challenge, operates, when it's something fairly significant, obviously, operates basically with 3 different steps. Now, first of all, what we've seen is we've had a global pandemic. Everyone is fearful. Everyone goes through that scenario, first of all, that we're all going to die. Millions of people are going to die. We're not going to cope. Everyone gets scared. Mainstream media are terrible at the best of times, let's be completely honest. But we get ourselves into finding the first level is all about fear, it's all about death and dying, and we get this big negative spiral happening, and everyone completely loses control. And we all go there. Everyone, it's not about being hypochondriac. It's about actually understanding the fact that most people give in to fear. Most people panic. I know and we're going to talk today with Scotty. I'm going to talk more about the business side of things, and Scotty's going to talk more about the provider and practitioner side of things as well with clients, because they both work off the same avenues, but 2 different scenarios that most of you guys are having to deal with. So if we start with the business side of things, if that's all right with you, Scotty?
Yeah, it's fine. Go for it.
So I think with the business side of things, this is what we see. We see everyone all of a sudden panicking, going, we're going to go broke. We're going to go bankrupt. We had all these, really influential allied health professionals whinging and whining all over social media. Within 3 days or 6 days of the second phase lockout, we had 2 or 3 very influential people turn around and sacked 2 of their full-time team members or 3 of their full-time team members, and panicked, wants to whinge about the associations and the government's not doing this and that, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, it's the most ludicrous form of any form of management or leadership you've ever seen. That is those people literally giving into fear, giving into the unknown and the clarity, and giving into that negative spiral, because you didn't need to do that. No one needed to do that, right? And so we're not criticizing by any stretch, but it's a really good example of the people that have been not understanding of their business, not understanding of the medium and longer term gains. They panic, they give into fear, and a lot of that gets self-perpetuated in their own mind, and that gets blown out of the proportion on social media. It gets into mainstream media, all the journalists go nuts with it, and it becomes absolute chaos, right? And so we see that on the business side of things in allied health in the last couple of weeks significantly. If we look at the same thing for like as a practitioner, talk about it from the client point of view. Like, what are we seeing? Or what did we see?
Well, I think it's just most people go into survival mode, with clients. A lot of us practitioners, physios, EPs, our clients are, more high risk, more elderly, and so they're obviously been thinking more about, how is this going to affect me? How is this going to affect my health? I'm more at risk. So, as a client perspective, it would have been just a couple of weeks ago, just maybe a day or 2 before our conference. And
it was, and you're going to talk about the emails, aren't you, about your clients?
Yep. Yeah, just like when everything first started to, the first signs of, oh my God, this is going to change my business a little bit. It was just down when the Formula One Grand Prix was down in Melbourne.
We had our last conference face-to-face for 3 days with our clients in Melbourne.
It was...
That was Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And the Formula One guys cancelled everything on the Saturday morning but we already had some things happening on the Friday afternoon. FIA guys and that were in our hotel. They left on the Saturday, got cancelled. Drivers were out of there and all that. But tell us about.
I was down in the lobby and I got a message from one of my clients saying, hey,
that was on Wednesday off memory, wasn't it? Wednesday afternoon before conference. So this is like 2 days or 2.5 days before anyone, even in Melbourne, had been diagnosed. At which the first person was a team member for McLaren, and that was late on the Friday night. So this is 2.5 days before anything had even happened. And what did you get?
I got a text message from a client saying, hey there, I'm sorry, but I have to stop coming in. I don't feel comfortable leaving the house given this crisis. And it was like the first of many, but it was, before all the news was really reacting with cancellations, lockdowns. Yeah. It would have been a week and a half before any of the big changes came in. So it was just, people were already going into survival mode, almost like...
And that also came from a doctor too, wasn't it? And from the fact that...
The other client said, my doctor advised me to stay at home.
And this was before a case had even come into Sydney.
100%.
And so it wasn't even in Sydney.
Yeah.
There wasn't even a confirmed case anywhere in and around the Sutherland Shire. And there was only, I think, 4 confirmed cases in all of Australia.
Yeah.
And already we had a doctor turning around and doing that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So it becomes a bit of a challenge in that respect. Yeah. So there's an example, guys, of how we all go into that survival mode, fight or flight type scenario. And the first step in this is fear. So if we're dealing with our business or our team, or we're dealing with clients, the first thing that we need to do is identify the fact of let's not make any rash decisions. Let's not panic. Let's actually step up and be the leader that actually can identify what's happening. Now, in this situation, you're not expected to know exactly what to do. In this global pandemic, we weren't sure 100% what to do. We weren't sure whether closing the borders 5 days later was the best thing or not. Whether there was level 1 restrictions, level 2. Everyone wanted to say, well, in Italy they did this and New Zealand did that. But no one actually knows, right, with how this is all coming through. So you're not expected to be perfect, but actually identifying the fact that the worst thing you can do right now is give into the negativity, give into the spiral, give into the fear, etc. Because how you react in that really defines who you are, and it's going to resonate for everyone around you for a long period of time. And I'll go back to the business side of things. There's a couple of people that are not the laughing stock, but got a lot of people going, oh my God, look at how that person reacted. Sacked 3 team members, said the following, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, really? It's not really the smartest thing to have done. And it just showed anyway.
Fast forward a week or 2 weeks, and now things are settling down a little bit, and things are, there's a bit of a different mindset or a bit of a different shift in what people are doing.
Absolutely. And where we find ourselves then is we then move into the second stage. Now, for most people, we're very strategic in what we do. So if we're working with businesses and developing their businesses, we work very strategically and we work on strategy. And that's where we start to look at 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. What is it that ideally you're trying to create in 2 or 3 years' time? Let's reverse engineer. Let's put the steps in place, the building blocks to guarantee that's going to happen in, say, 12 or 18 months, not 3 years. Yeah. The challenge is, and that's the same as if you're working with, pick something like diabetes. You're trying to work with someone's blood pressure, their weight, their HbA1c, etc. You're going to need 3 months, 6 months. We're not going to get into whether you can stop it, defeat it, reduce it,
manage it,
whatever, right? But the fact of the matter is it's not a quick fix. So we find ourselves always working strategy. The challenge is that once they get through that first stage and they realize, hang on, we're not going to all die. We are going to all get through this. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't need to cull all our staff. We don't need to, stop doing everything. We don't need to live as a hermit in our room. We don't need to, panic and not be seen out in public and all these type of things at all. We start to then get into a situation where we have to deal with the here and now. So we have to deal with tactics, short term, not strategy long term, because people in phase 2 can't deal with strategy, right? If you go back 7 days, 10 days, we weren't in a situation where you could actually talk 6 months or 12 months because people still were coming out the back end of that fear of, well, I don't even know whether my business is going to survive. We were seeing stuff on all these Facebook forums and in different groups, people going, oh, I'm not going to survive. I can't do this. I can't. The government should this. What about this? What about that? They want to talk about the stimulus and this and that. And they're still panicking and fearing.
But things are settled down a little bit, like the Medicare item numbers came in, telehealth, the
and
DVA.
These things were always going to happen. We weren't ever going to be left to flounder.
So the ducks were getting lined up, and it's a bit more. People are a little bit less freaked out because they can still get by.
But the main thing is this: it's about tactic in that second phase, not strategy. There's no use talking about 6 months or 12 months to people to build their business. There's no use talking to your team about how we're going, and just constantly saying, do this now, it'll take 6 months to roll out, because people don't want to talk strategy in phase 2 of crisis management. They only want to talk tactics here and now. How do they get toilet paper? How do they get toilet paper without getting bashed by the lady in Woolworths for the toilet paper, right? Yeah. How do they put food on the table? And it becomes a scenario, just talk tactic. It's just, here's what we're doing today. This is why it's so crucial that we're saying, like we've been saying the last couple of weeks, talk to your team twice a day. Send out mass text messages, talk to people face to face and say, this is what's happening, this is where we're at. We're in a situation where we want to make sure that we are dealing with tactics, not with strategy. So whenever crisis management hits, guys, once you get through that first part, sometimes it can be a day, it may be just an hour of consultation with people. In this situation, probably a good 3 to 5 days. Then you get into the step 2, which is go switch your mindset from talking strategy, which is more that medium and long term, to here and now. People want quick wins. People want to know that they can do this and they can get a benefit with their team. Yeah. Or you can have that quick consult with a client, or spend 3 minutes on the phone with a client as a practitioner, and you can allay their fears. You can actually talk tactics. Here's one thing you can do right now before I see you next week. And whether we're going to do telehealth or whether we do it face-to-face, we'll decide that later, but this is what you can do right now.
Yeah. And it's important also to know that, or to see that there was a time where it probably wasn't a good idea to go and market and talk to people because they were still in that reactive panic mode. Yep. And now things have settled down. It's just, what are some effective ways to do it, given the change in the, the world, to see what's most appropriate.
And so in all forms of crisis management, it's always about tactics is the second part. Get it through that fear side of things, allay those fears, just relax, breathe, and make the smart choices. Then understand that people don't want to be in a scenario where you're talking long-term strategy. They want here and now. What's going to happen today? What's happening tomorrow? What can I do right now? Where's the quick wins coming? So guys, step 2 on this is always talk tactic, the short-term stuff, the little here's this, here's that, and just get people stepping forward and creating momentum. Because when you do that, you can then start to move forward into stage 3. Now, we're actually already in stage 3 as of probably Wednesday or Thursday last week. I think yesterday was the first time I started to hear other people in the industry start to talk about, maybe this isn't going to be the case in 4 or 6 weeks' time. What about this? What about that? We've been talking with our clients since Wednesday last week, 4 or 5 days earlier, because we already identified it and said, hey, here's what's going to happen. Yeah. And is the huge pivot of moving everyone online and telehealth, etc., is that always going to be the best model moving forward? Does it have its place? Should you be pivoting? All these people want to sell online, but again, is that a short-term scenario, or are you doing it now as a reactive measure that, I need to do this because of cash flow and panicking? There's a huge amount of time, money, and effort that is spent, or in many cases wasted by people, because they're trying to talk strategy when they need to talk tactic. Now we're starting to get a situation in this learning process of the pandemic of COVID-19 where we're actually now starting to move more towards a bit of strategy. So we're still doing day-to-day tactics, but we're not doing day-to-day. So probably halfway along that continuum. We're probably now out to a 48 to 72 hour tactic. It's like, what are we doing now that's going to help in 2 or 3 days' time? Is it just about the quick win now, or how do we systemize this and how do we make this more efficient? Because if this is something we're going to have to do over the next 4 weeks or 4 months, how do we best do that now? So you can start to see that stage 3 is slowly moving our clients or our business mindset from tactic right here, right now, what do I do in the next hour, to what am I doing in the next 2 to 3 days? And we're starting to move that out a little bit. And you're seeing that with clients as well, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the service delivery settles down and you've got telehealth options, group classes. It's a great form now and it might be a good service to continue on. But, depending on the business, in allied health, a lot of our work is hands-on or in the gym. So, it's important to know that it's a substitute, not a complete replacement. Yeah. We'll just see what the next couple of months, has to play. Kind of thing.
And as this rolls out over the weeks or the months ahead, things will settle back down to normality. And you know what? I might be proved completely wrong, but I'm very, very confident in making this statement right here and right now, is the fact that people We know that people don't just buy your content. They don't just buy your knowledge and experience. They actually buy contact and the context of that contact. All right, we know that across every industry. So when this all starts to settle down, whether it's 1 month away and they release the back to level 1, from level 2 restrictions, etc., or whether it's 6 weeks, whether it's the 90 days and we're already 2 or 3 weeks into that anyway, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, people are going to want to get out to the real world. They're going to want to have the doors open. They want to get it out and make things happen, etc. So what we do need to know is that we get into a situation where we are going to have to be able to see people face to face, and doing huge pivots, etc., is going to have its place partially, but we need to understand that everyone's mindset's starting to move back to strategy. Yeah. So if we start to think rather than 3 days ahead, 1 or 2 weeks ahead, how's that going to look? What are we going to be doing from there? And people will naturally want to come out, leave their doors open, go out to the real world and see people and face-to-face, etc. They're not going to want to be just on cameras and telehealths and stuff like that. So the fact is, does it have a place? Yes. Is it important? Yes. Do we need to use it? Yes, now. But unless you're going to do a massive pivot and have all of your business based on that, just be a little bit careful that we're not investing a huge amount of time, money and effort into something that's not going to hold 100% for most people, because people want to see you. They want to be in the same room. They want to see the physio or the chiro and actually have hands-on treatment. Whether it's right or wrong, that's perception. That's always going to happen. Yeah. So we just have to be a little bit careful of understanding the change process in crisis management. All right. And the third step of that is where they go from tactic to strategy. And you can start to now talk to your clients a lot more and talk to your team, etc., about more of that longevity type process, because people are accepting of that.
Yeah. And one thing that's always stuck out that you said to me quite a lot is people don't remember what you say, people don't remember what you do, people remember how you make them feel.
Absolutely.
And particularly, most importantly, in times like this, I think that's really quite important. And just the fact that you can be open with your clients and have this communication and lead them in a time of crisis, is really important, because they'll still be those raving fans when life returns to normal in the near future.
Absolutely. So guys, there we have it. There's the 3 steps of crisis management. The first one in our situation right now is we've already been through that fear and that spiral, etc. It's about staying calm and being the leader. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't be the panic agent, etc. Understand that from a business, a team, and a client point of view. Quickly transition people as quickly as possible into tactic, into step 2, right? Don't go strategy, because people don't want to see it. It's quick wins. It's the small, short stuff. We get the tactics done and organized moving forward. We get momentum. We can keep in control of ourselves, our team, our clients. And then we start to come out at the third part of crisis management, so where we start to move that mentality from short-term tactic out to longer-term strategy. And that's where we already are in the last week. And a lot of people still haven't really understood that transition. So right now, if you're listening to this, now quick on release, then great. You need to really start to look at that more of what's happening in a week or two's time. Now, you're not going to know everything perfectly, because none of us do, right? We don't have a crystal ball, but we can start to extrapolate what's going to happen, and you're a lot better place for your business, for your team, and your clients. So if you're listening to this and COVID-19 was last year, that's cool, great, no worries at all. Understand the crisis management point of view of how to best move this in a business and in life, especially in a health or medical business, and it's going to leave you in much better stead for you moving forward from there. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you again very soon. Cheers for now. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.